everyone, I'm Rachel Bateman, and I just won NaNoWriMo in 13 days, which was just an intense rush of drafting. I wrote 12 out of those 13 days. So a couple of days had really low word counts, but obviously several of them had super high word counts in order to get 50,000 words in that amount of time. I figure since I have gotten to the end of that NaNoWriMo goal, even though I have about 25,000 probably more words to write to get to the end of this book, it was a good time to jump in and talk about the book and fast drafting and my thoughts on it, because I realized I have never shared on this channel what my NaNoWriMo book for this year is. And I like sharing what I'm working on. I like being open and transparent. And there's always like this balancing act because like I said, I like being transparent about what I'm working on. I like sharing. I like talking about it. But where's that line? Because assuming it's going to be published someday, you can only say so much. So I'll be doing in this video the Authortube work in progress tag. I've actually done that a couple times on this channel before, but I feel like it's a nice way to give a general introduction to a book without diving too deep into the details and getting too far into telling what it is about. So I'm going to answer the questions in the tag, and then I'm going to talk about tips and tricks for drafting quickly, and also some thoughts on whether or not drafting this quickly is actually a good idea and where I stand on that. And just really kind of, I want to discuss this because I've been posting my word counts daily on Instagram as I write, and I'm getting a lot of, encouragement, which is great, and really excited comments, which is great. But I'm also noticing some, I wish I could do that, and oh, I'm so jealous of your word count and stuff like that. And I really kind of want to talk about that. So I'm going to introduce the book, and then that is all coming. I will timestamp everything down below, so if you want to just jump to whatever part you want to know about, feel free to do that. I'm going to dive right in with the Authortube work in progress tag. And question number 1 is, what is the working title of your book? My book is called, I don't know if you could even read that, but it's called The Stars at Night. This is my little plot workbook that I made for it. It is a play on the lyrics to Deep in the Heart of Texas, the song, and also the fact that one of my characters is very, very into space and astronomy. So the title has kind of a significant meaning to two different characters for two very different reasons. Number 2, where did the idea of this book come from? This book is a lot of what if. Probably more than anything I've written in the past. This book was inspired by certain things in my life as a teenager and looking back and thinking, what if? What if I had done something differently? What if I had done this instead? What if in that one instance my choice was different? What would that have looked like? And not looking back with regret about the choices that I did made, but just kind of a curiosity of what would that look like? What if? So I just kind of started thinking about a certain time period in my life and let my imagination roll from there. And then, obviously all the details and stuff are very, very different, but the spark of the idea came from what if. Number 3, what genre does your book fall under? This is a young adult contemporary romance, just the same as Someone Else's Summer, Make the Fireflies Dance, and 99 Days of LANEY MACGUIRE. I really, really like writing in this space, so that's what I'm doing again. Number 4, what actors would you choose to play in a movie rendition of your book? I honestly, legitimately have no idea. I often will go through and dream cast a book when I am writing it to just if this were a movie, who would play the roles of these characters and give me an idea of what they look like so I could better have them in my head and better describe them. But this particular book, I have such a strong vision of what these people look like. I could picture them so vibrantly, and I can't find actors that fit that. Which isn't to say, if this did become a movie someday, I would be unhappy with whoever was cast at all. It's just, I wouldn't be in charge of casting because I don't know. I can't, for this book, for some reason, come up with actors I would like to see in these roles. Okay, question number 5. What is a 1-sentence synopsis of your book? So my log line for this book is, stuck in Montana for the summer, an ambitious teenage dancer must decide what she truly wants in life, all while adjusting to life with the family she barely remembers. So that's what I've been working from. As I write, some things are shifting a little bit, and that's still a major focus of the book. but by the end, that log line might change a little. But that's basically what I'm doing with this book. Question number 6. Will you be self-published or traditionally published? I will submit this book to my publisher when the time comes, with hopes that they'll pick it up, and if not, we will go on submission to other publishers. I feel like the traditional route is the better route for this book. So that's what I'm going for. If it doesn't work out, I probably will self-publish because I've done it before. I enjoy doing it. I know what I'm doing, but I do feel like traditional is the better route for this book, so that's what we're going to pursue. Question number 7 is, how long did it take you to write the first draft of your book? I'm right in the middle of it. Like I said, I'm like 2/3 of the way done. It is now November 16th, I believe. Yep, November 16th when I'm filming this. I'll finish it sometime this month. Slowing down a bit now my writing for several reasons, just time being one of them, but also the end of the book always goes slower for me than the beginning. So I'll finish it sometime this month though. Number 8, what other books would you compare this story to? So I went and pulled some off my shelf as comparison titles. And 2 of them are by the same author. She is my favorite, so it makes sense. But the first one is This Lullaby by Sarah Dessen. My sweet, goofy, lovable, heart on his sleeve Bennett Murphy, my love interest in this book, is not, I mean, just like Dexter, but there are some similarities, the goofiness and the fun, and I really, really adore him, and I really, really adore Dexter, and there's a lot of similarities in kind of tone and how I go about it to this book. Another one is Don't Date Rose Santos. If you have not read this book, it is an absolute delight. I adore this book so much. And Nina's second book actually just came out too, so look her up and read them both. They are wonderful. And I just feel like The Stars at Night has kind of the same vibe as this, and I really, really love it. Another, This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. All of her young adult contemporary books are just lovely and so fun. But this is the first one I picked up, and it is the one that made me fall in love with her writing and just the whole feel of this book. Like, I didn't want to stop reading it. I wanted to just like wrap it up in a little hug and keep it forever because it just has such a wonderful, almost nostalgic feel, even though this isn't about nostalgia and there's not like a whole lot of nostalgia in the book. It just kind of has that feel reading it, and that's what I feel like writing The Stars at Night. And the last book, and probably the strongest comparison I have, is another by Sarah Dessen. It is The Rest of the Story. This is my new favorite Sarah Dessen book. It's her newest one, and it immediately became a favorite when I read the arc of it. If you have read this, you know just based on my logline what the comparison here is. But if you haven't, this book follows Emma Saylor. Her dad is getting remarried and they're going on their honeymoon and she's going to stay with a friend, but then the friend's grandma, there's a problem and they can't have her at their house. And so her dad can still enjoy his honeymoon with his new wife. She volunteers to go stay with her mother's parents. Now, her mother died several years ago, and they are not really in touch with this side of the family anymore. She's not been there for years and years and years. And so she goes back to this lake where they live, and everyone knows who she is, and she doesn't really remember anyone, and just having to kind of get to know who that side of her family is and who she is with that side of her family. And that is probably, like I said, the closest comparison to The Stars at Night. In The Stars at Night, my main character, Joey, her biological father was killed in Iraq while her mom was pregnant with her, so she's never met him. And her stepfather is the only dad she's ever really known. And the summer before her senior year, she gets sent to go stay with her father, her biological father's family, for the summer. And she hasn't seen them since she was 6 years old, and they moved away from that town, and is just really kind of having to figure things out and get to know them. And she didn't want to come, and just there's a lot going on because she's never really known her father. She never met him. Her mom doesn't talk about him a lot. And as she's there with her family, like, this is a whole other side of herself that she's becoming acquainted with for the first time. So there's definitely a strong comparison there, and I'm really loving writing this. Okay, the next question is, who or what inspired you to write the book? Okay. So I've actually shared this on my Instagram, but I'm going to share it again. I have a picture, and it is just like a print off because I'm old. This is my friend Amy's 18th birthday party. All of us just, I don't know if my light's really bright, if this will focus. Hold on. Focus. So all of us at the birthday party. This guy lying across us, that's Tim. His name is Tim. And that night at the birthday party was the first night most of us met him. We didn't know him at all before that. But we got to know him and we were friends. And then life happens and you move on. Well, earlier this year, I got a message from Tim. It just said, hey. And we started talking and sharing about our families, our spouses, and our kids, and what we're doing, where we're living, how we're doing it. And just as we talked, like, so much of this night and so many other nights after it for the next couple of years just kind of came flooding back into my mind and just reminding me of so many good times. And that really, like, that first conversation, I was lying in bed with my 4-year-old trying to get him to go to sleep as we were chatting. And that first conversation just really sparked the idea for this book. And then it took on a life of its own after that. But it was really just an out of the blue message from a friend from 2 decades ago, not quite 2 decades ago, but close enough, that just sparked the whole idea for this book. And finally, 10. What else about your book might pique your reader's interest? I don't know if it's interesting to anyone else, but my girl Joey she's a drill team captain at her school. I was actually on the drill team in high school. I joined kind of on a whim. I was asked by a friend to come to tryouts just so she could tell her coach she brought someone, and I had zero interest in it. And then those 3 days of tryouts, I ended up falling in love with drill team, and I did that. And my girl Joey, she's all about drill team. And she is on the path. She's going to go try out to be a Kilgore College Rangerette, which if you don't follow anything about drill team, you probably don't even know who they are, but they're the best. They're the oldest drill team and the best. So that's her thing. But the other thing that is most interesting for me is that this is the first book I've ever written that is set in Great Falls, Montana, which is where I live. It is where I grew up. It is where I thought I would never live again when I left when I was 18, and where I am so happy to be back and living now, except for when the wind is howling like it is today, in which case I wish I was on the beach somewhere. But it is set here, and there is just something so fun about writing a book that is in a place that is so intrinsically intertwined with who I am and my youth and my growing up, and that, I mean, this town shaped me. And so I'm loving writing something set here, and I am pulling certain things from my teenage years in Great Falls directly into the book, games that we played, things that we did that they felt at the time so uniquely us. And I know, for all I know, people play these games all over the world, but, you know, when you are a teenager, you're infinite and you're everything. It just is so focused and so intense. And I am being able to go back to those feelings and those moments in time, and the fact that the book is set here makes that so much more real for the writing. And it's just really fun. My hair is driving me crazy today, if you couldn't tell by the 400 times I've done this. Okay, so that's about my book. I'm really excited about it. There's so much more going on in the book that I wish I could share with you, but, you know, I have to save some things for when people read it. So that is what I could tell you. I am just head over heels for my girl Joey and Bennett, my sweet love interest. I can't wait to share them with you. But now I want to talk a little bit about drafting this fast and what my thoughts on it are, because I do have some tips and tricks and how it worked. But the biggest thing to know is that this is my only job. I don't go to work for 8 hours a day and then come home and fit my writing in around that job and my family and everything else. This is it. This is my job. So when my kids go to school, I have the day that I can sit and focus on writing. Now, are there other things like, yeah, I take care of the house and the animals and stuff like that. Typically, I need to do that. But how I wrote that many words in that quick a time is that I didn't do the other stuff. You get to see this much of my house in this video. The rest of it is an actual disaster because I have not cleaned a thing in 2 weeks. And like, my husband comes home from work and he takes care of stuff, but there's only so much he could do. And, you know, division of labor, I am not picking up my part of the work around the house. I'm just not doing it. I think I've cooked dinner once in 2 weeks, and that was on Sunday when I was not writing. So that didn't get done. I am writing when I watch a movie with my kids. I'm writing. This book has completely overwhelmed me and like taken everything. Like it's almost compulsory to keep writing it. So that's what I'm doing. The other thing that needs to be really clear when people are saying, oh, I wish I could write that fast. I really want to be able to do that, is that November 1st, I spend in a hotel room. I check in October 31st. I check out November 2nd. So when I wake up November 1st, I am alone in a room and I write all day long. I wrote 13,000 words, a little over 13,000 words on the 1st of November. And then I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning and I write as much as I can until 11 a.m. when I have to check out. So that gives me a huge boost. I think I was at like, hold on, I can check. Okay, I went and got my little tracker so I could tell you that before I left the hotel on November 2nd, I was at just over 15,000 words. So I just had this huge jump start before I even had to like enter the real world again. I was just in my own little space writing nonstop until I hit 15,000 words. So that's a huge jump. And then other things just kind of fell into place. At the end of October, my husband found out that he was at the point where he was capping out his PTO at work. So if he didn't take some time off, he was just going to start losing his paid time off. So he decided to take the entire week off. So that worked out really great. Those first 2 days when I wasn't there, he usually goes to work before the kids have to go to school in the morning. So I'm in charge of getting them ready to go. And he was going to take care of that for me anyway, since I would be gone. But he just took the whole day off because he needed to take time off. So he got the kids to school, he did projects and whatever he needed to for the first 3 days. But then on that Thursday, which, quick math, the 4th, he took my boys and they went to Wyoming to go visit his mom for 4 days. So the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, I was home in an empty, quiet house alone with nothing to do but make sure my animals were fed and write. That's all I had on my plate those 3 days. I was also home alone the 7th, but I don't write on Sundays, so it was a day off to relax. So by the end of Saturday the 6th, I had 32,628 words because I basically had almost an entire week to do nothing but write all day long every day. So I was doing things like 13,000 words in a day, 2,300, 1,500, 5,400, 7,800, and then another 2,500. Like putting out these really large word counts each day because that's the time I had. And I think that's what I need to make really, really clear, because when people see this and they ask, how do you do it? How do you do it? I want to know how you do it. The answer is I was very, very fortunate to have way more time than most people have or than what I normally have. So that is the first thing. I really am stressing this because I don't want people to come in here and compare themselves to me and what I did writing my 50,000 words so quickly, because it was an anomaly and not how my normal writing life works and not how my normal schedule is. Also, it's exhausting. Like in the moment, I'm going. I wrote on, gosh, what was it? This Saturday, I added another 9,400 words to push past that 50,000 words. And it's now Tuesday and I'm going to start writing again for the first time when I'm done filming this video, because I always take Sundays off, but Monday morning came and I was like, I need another day off. I am exhausted after writing that much that quickly. I need a break. My brain needs a break. My body needs a break. I have tendonitis to my wrists, so my left hand needs a break. I really just need to step back. And that is something that happens when you write that fast. So it is worth taking into consideration. But the biggest thing is that as I'm talking to people mostly on Instagram about this, I really worry that people are seeing my word counts and they're getting down on themselves. And not just mine, like I'm not arrogant enough to think that it's all about me, but there, you get online, especially during something like NaNoWriMo where people are sharing their word counts, and you see people that have these massive word counts so quickly, and I see other authors who are really, really getting down on themselves. And I ask how Nano's going, it's like, well, I only wrote 500 words, or I only wrote 2,000 words today, or I am just barely getting by with the Nano minimum. And like, that is wonderful. And it's so sad to me to see someone who, just because they're not writing these massive, massive word counts, think that they're doing something wrong, or that they aren't as good, or that they're not going to make it, or whatever. It is really sad to me because any writing is wonderful. Adding words to your manuscript is amazing. Continuing and pushing through when it gets hard is just magical. And I really, really don't want someone to come in here and watch this video of me writing 50,000 words in 13 days and be like, oh, wow, I don't know if I can do that, and feeling bad about that, because everything lined up for me to be able to spend extra time doing the writing. If you have a 9-to-5 job or a more job, so many people work more than 8 hours a day. If you have that, you're not going to have the time that I had to write this much. If you are a single parent and you can't be like, hey, husband, you're doing everything right now, you're not going to have the time that I had to write that much. There are other obligations that take people's time, and writing that quickly does not work for everyone. A lot of people just don't have the time for it. Even the 1,667 words a day you need to write 50,000 words in the month of November, if you can't do that, that's fine. Books get written 250 words at a time all the time. There is no need to write a book this quickly. It works for some people. Fast drafting works for me. That's how my brain works the best, and so that's how I do it. But also keep in mind, this is one time a year. Like, I'm not doing this month after month after month. I have been planning this book since like April or March. I'm not sure. I could go back and look, but that's not the point. Months and months and months of planning to be able to draft this quickly. So I guess the whole thing, what I'm going on about this, is just don't compare your work style and your drafting style to other authors, because we all have our own pace and we all have our own way of doing it. And something like NaNoWriMo and fast drafting, if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. It doesn't make you any less of a writer. It just makes you a different writer. If you draft slower, that's fine. That is the process that works for you. It's not a race and it's not a competition. We're just all here to write our books and share them with the world and cheer each other on. So that's my big thing. And where I stand, like, this is my soapbox. We don't all have to write fast. And the fact that I was able to write that many words that fast isn't just because I am a fast writer. It is because I have trained myself to be a fast writer and everything else lined up for me. And I had all the time in the world to do nothing but write. And I didn't take care of any other responsibilities. My kids are alive and well, but I did not go out of my way to make dinners, which, I mean, they love, because getting food brought to the house, getting takeout, is like the coolest thing for my kids, so they were happy about it. I didn't clean the house. I have not done laundry. Bless my husband, who's been folding laundry every night for 3 days straight now. I let everything else slide to write because this book just kind of completely overtook me, and I needed to do it. And I'm kind of still in that. Things are slowing down, but I'm going to get done with this video and I'm going to go sit on the couch and put on an episode of Dawson's Creek, and I'm going to write through it because that's how I do it. I watch Dawson's Creek or Scream over and over and over again, and I write, and I ignore everything else. That is not feasible for everyone. I fully recognize that. And that's why I need you to fully recognize that if you are not writing at the pace that I am, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, or that you should try to go faster at all. But finally, for a couple minutes, I'll give a couple tips in case you do want to write faster. Things that have worked for me. 1, planning. Obviously, if you're in the middle of your NaNoWriMo book right now, this is not something to do right exactly the way I did, because I legitimately spend months and months and months planning a book. It's just up in my head. I'm thinking about it. I have my little workbook that I print out. I take notes. I go through and jot down the different beats that need to happen, stuff about my characters. I heavily outline. So I know when I sit down to start my draft exactly what I want to say. I have been running ideas in my head for months. I had the opening line of this book. It was there for like 4 weeks before I started writing, because it just came to me and I knew that's exactly how I wanted to open the book. So a lot of prep time. That is how I write fast. Obviously, we're in the middle of NaNoWriMo right now, so going back and doing months of prep time is not what's going to work. But another thing that works in that same vein is if I'm having a slow day, like on Wednesday last week, I wrote 436 words, and then on Thursday, I wrote 846. Now, part of that is that our water heater went out, and I spent a lot of time those 2 days trying to track down a water heater in this town, because there was one unit in the entire town that worked with the way our vents are set up. So it was kind of a nightmare for 4 days trying to find a water heater. So part of that was the distraction. But part of it is that I realized during those, 1,200 words over those 2 days that, like, I don't know exactly what's coming next. Like, I know big picture what's happening next in my book, but I didn't have details worked out. So at the end of Thursday night, before I went to bed, I pulled open my workbook and I just started making bullet points. Okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. So Friday, when I jumped in, I wrote 1,400 words. A little faster, still for fixing the water heater, so there was still a lot going on. But then Saturday, when I was waiting, Saturday, my husband took the boys to the mountains to go hiking, so I had the whole day to myself again, which is another big thing as far as getting words out. I sat down while they were getting ready, and I did more bullet points, and I just wrote a list of, like, these are the things that I need to address today. These are the things that I need to tackle. And throughout the day, I ended up hitting all of those. I wrote something like 9,400 words, going through my whole bullet point list. And now I'm at the point where I am kind of past that list I made on Saturday. I know exactly what I'm doing in the scene I'm writing right now, but as soon as I'm done with that, I'll pull back and do the same thing. I'll do a list of what the next several things that I need to write are. So I always have this map to guide me through, and that really helps me write quickly. The number 2 thing that I do to write quickly is do not look back. Don't look back. Forward, forward, forward. You messed something up, you can fix that in edits. Leave yourself a note and move forward. Going back really slows me down a lot, because I start meandering, I start fixing things. I do things like, oh gosh, I used the same word twice within 2 sentences of each other, because that's like a pet peeve of mine, and I'll start fixing that. And that's all stuff for edits. That is all stuff for down the line. And if I go back, I am not moving forward. Obviously, that's just kind of how things work. And so not looking back is how I'm able to write quickly. I use an AlphaSmart for writing, so there's like 4 lines of teeny little text, so I can't really look back much as it is without like endless scrolling. So that helped me a lot. The number 3 thing that helps me write fast is I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I have a couple numbers that can break through that. The numbers from my boys at school can break through Do Not Disturb, and my husband can, and my mom can, and my dad can. Now, my dad does like to send a lot of memes, so sometimes that's not super helpful, but my phone's not buzzing all the time with just telemarketing calls or random things that aren't important right now. People, if they need something from me, it could wait till I'm done writing. If they have a question, that could wait till I'm done writing. If they just want to chat, that could wait till I'm done writing. So I'll put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and so only important things come through. Like if my boys at school calls because one of them's at the nurse's office and needs to be picked up, like that's more important than my writing. So that needs to make it through. So I have it set to where they can break through the Do Not Disturb if they're calling. So take that distraction away. I am not on the internet when I'm writing. My iPad is off to the side. My phone is on Do Not Disturb. I don't have a computer in front of me. I remove as much distraction as possible. I mentioned that I write watching Dawson's Creek or Scream, and the reason for that is that I know both of those the show and movie so well that it is just background noise now. It is there and I could just write through it. And it actually, I've done it enough times that it like puts me in the right mindset. I was like, okay, Dawson's on the screen. I'm writing now. That having something like that, a certain song, a certain kind of music helps sometimes as well. So that's my other tip. My fourth tip, and this is the biggest one, it ties right in with that don't look back, is to use brackets. Don't stop writing to research something to make sure it's accurate. Write it the way you want to and then put a bracket. Research, bracket. Be done. If you forgot a name, and I did this, I have a character at the beginning of this book. He's a small character in this book, though I do believe he and a couple other characters will have a bigger story later. I named him just in the moment when I was writing him, and like 3 chapters later, he's referenced again, and I was like, I have no idea what I named that character. I cannot remember. So I just bracket name, bracket. And that's what I called him for like 4 more chapters until I remembered. And I started using his real name again. But anything that gets me slowed down where I was like, okay, you need to look back or you need to stop research. I'm not sure if this is right. Bracket. Leave yourself a note. Bracket. I probably have 18 times in every book I write. Bracket. Timeline. Bracket. Because I'll be writing and like, I don't remember if when I say, you know, 4 days ago or whatever, if that's even right. I don't remember. Or I'll reference like, in this book, her Uncle Jeff is, I believe, 3 years older than her dad. And I say I believe because I have put twice now, bracket, keep consistent, bracket, because I think I said he was 3 years older, but as I write and reference that, I'm not sure if that's actually true. But I don't go back and look. I don't research something. I don't look it up on Google Maps or whatever to make sure it's right in the moment of writing. I just write it and then I bracket it to look at later. Because the first thing I'll do when I'm done with the book is I will do a search for all brackets and I will address those brackets one by one throughout the book until they're all gone before I ever go through and do any kind of bigger editing pass. Being able to put something in brackets really helps me move along and just keep going. I do know some people who they'll be like writing and they'll come up on like a big fight scene and not be sure how they want to write it yet. And so they'll just write to it and they'll be like bracket, fight scene, bracket, and keep moving. I have never bracketed a full scene like that, or even really, I've never bracketed something that needs to be written like that. I tend to write it and then bracket to make sure I come back and address it and make sure things are working properly in it. But if bracketing a whole scene or a small section like that works for you to keep you moving forward, because this scene is really just stopping your progress, absolutely do it. Brackets are your best friend when you're trying to fast draft. Throw them in there and move on. Don't let things get you hung up and stuck. Just stick them in brackets and address them later when you're able to step back a little bit. And really that's it for fast drafting. There's nothing special or magical about it. There's some steps you can take. The biggest one that actually helped me is I taught myself to type in Dvorak keyboard layout instead of QWERTY, but that's not super practical for most people. I did that primarily because of my tendonitis. Your fingers move less in Dvorak, so it bothers my wrists less. But that actually, it helps me type a lot faster that way. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, everyone go take 3 months to learn how to type in a completely different keyboard layout, because that's just not practical for most people. Though if you want to try it, it really does help. So that's it. They're very simple things you can do to draft fast, but the biggest thing you need to do is recognize how you work best. If super fast drafting just does not work well for you, don't force yourself to do it. Your book will get written no matter how fast you do it, as long as you continue doing it. As long as you keep coming back and putting the words down until you get to the end, your book will get written. And it does not matter if it gets written in 3 weeks or if it gets written in 3 months. It does not matter in the long run. What matters is that you are writing the book, that you are creating and sharing your work and putting yourself out there and making magic. That's what matters. How fast you do it does not. So just keep that in mind when you see people sharing their word counts when they're drafting. Your pace is your pace. What works for you is what's important. It doesn't matter how fast anyone else is doing it. So I'm going to jump off and get back to writing my book now, but I just want you to keep that in mind. Keep rocking, keep writing. You are doing wonderful things. I am Rachel Bateman, and I'll see you back here next time.